Hey, this is The Game, Triple H.
Hey, this is Chris Jericho.
Hey everybody, this is CM Punk.
The absolute legend, Edge.
Seth freaking Rollins.
You're watching Loudwire. Don't ever stop.
It said that while you were working as a manager at Gold's Gym in Nashua, you were introduced to world champion powerlifter Ted Archidi, who was employed by WWE at the time. Eventually, after numerous attempts, you finally persuaded him to introduce you to Killer Kowalski, who trained you.
Mildly true.
Okay, so what happened?
I wasn't at Gold's, but I was running a gym.
Okay.
He came in, we became friends. He was no longer wrestling. He was doing it on occasion. He would always try to dissuade me from it, and I was constantly on him. And then he gave me 2 phone numbers, finally.
Okay.
One was for Ken Passarello in Orange, Connecticut, for a gym called Passarello's Quest, which was training people with Tony Altamore. And then a number that he didn't know Kowalski at all. He had just gotten a number from somebody. And he said, look, here's 2 numbers, do what you want with them, you know.
Okay.
And I called both. And Kowalski was actually his home phone number, and then that's how I got started in the business. I just really wanted to get in, and the rest of it is history.
So there's been a lot of funny names for what does the CM stand for.
I knew this was coming.
Exactly.
Okay.
But these are the ones that were on there. You can tell me if there are any funny ones that are missing.
Okay.
There's been Cookie Monster,
That's a good
Cookie
one.
Master,
Oh.
Crooked Moon, no Cookie Master?
I mean, what the is a Cookie Master?
No. Crooked Moonsault. Chuck Mosley, I appreciate that one.
That's 100%. That's real.
That's an excellent one. Charles Montgomery, great. Charles Manson and Chicago Made.
Yeah, those are all accurate.
Any good ones that we missed?
Charlie Murphy?
Charlie Murphy. Your couch punk.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good. Next time you can use that one.
Your desire to become a pro wrestler came when you saw footage of Owen Hart compete in the Stampede Wrestling promotion.
Not really true. I decided I wanted to be a wrestler a few years before that. I used to watch with my grandma at her house, and I really got enamored with wrestling. And I mean, seeing Owen Hart definitely put the icing on the cake, but I was already kind of thinking about it because I grew up in Winnipeg and I had a band, but there really wasn't much of a scene. The big band from Winnipeg was the Guess Who, 20 years earlier, and then the only other band that really made it huge was the Crash Test Dummies. Remember that?
I remember that.
Super deep voice. And they came around about 94, and I'd already left Winnipeg. So you basically had the Guess Who in 72 and the Crash Test Dummies in 92, and not much in between. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go try this wrestling thing and get out of Winnipeg.
When you debuted in WWE, it says that it was preceded by weeks of vignettes for your character, which included you aimlessly walking around darkened city streets and assaulting innocent pedestrians.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, they were plants, obviously.
Yeah,
I
yes,
didn't just attack people. Nothing was fleshed out character-wise,
Okay.
which was a good thing and also a hard thing because you're not pigeonholed. But then I didn't know what Edge was. Like, what is Edge? And nobody had an idea. That's freeing in a way because you go, okay, well, I got wide open boundaries here. Like, I can take it anywhere. But at the same time, it would have been nice at that point to have a little bit of direction to go, okay, right, this is the direction. At least I can focus and bite into that and then start creating from there. But it was just like the Autobahn, just like wide open.
It says on Wikipedia that when you made your pro wrestling debut in 2005, you wrestled under the name Gixx or Gixx. Is that true?
So Gixx, yes,
Gixx.
but it's true and false. So I wrestled under the name Gixx, but that was before I actually made my professional debut. So my professional debut was in 2005. After I had been trained, I had wrestled previously, probably I would say maybe a year before that in a ring, and then for 4 years before that in my backyard. But my kind of debut in-ring name was Gixx, who was a Magic the Gathering character. I never played Magic the Gathering, but my brother, who's 3 years older than me, was way into it, gave me the name or thought it was a cool name. And I was like, all right, if you think it's cool, I must be cool. So I used that for a little bit, maybe a year here and there, and some shows.
Wow. And I think that Magic the Gathering gimmick is still available if somebody wants to take it from there and use it.
You can have it. It's all yours.
It said that you left for WWE in January 1995 after WCW turned down your request to be promoted as a singles competitor.
No, that's false.
That's false. Okay.
So when I went to WCW, they offered me a multi-year deal. This is one of those things where like you look back now and go like, I can't believe I had the balls to do that. It was for very little money, which won't sound like it was very little money now, but it was like for 50 grand. But at that time you paid all your own expenses, and I was on the road a lot.
Gotcha.
So I was losing a lot of money wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time I got to the end, man, I was broke. But when they first offered me the contract, I was like, man, it's not a lot of money. And Bischoff was like, well, I'm not paying you more money. And I was like, all right, well, it's a multi-year deal. What if I just did 1 year? And he was like, so I'm offering you multi-years, you just want to sign one? Like, it's kind of a dumb decision. I said, look, here's how I look at it. Let me wrestle for you for a year. At the end of the year, you're either going to know I'm worth a lot more than 52 grand, or I ain't worth keeping.
It said when you used to yell, "It's clobbering time" during your entrance, it was a reference to Sick of It All. That's true too.
Yeah, I mean, both Sick of It All and The Thing. You know,
Exactly.
I'm a comic book nerd. I'm a hardcore kid. Yeah, it's one of those things that now I guess is taken on 3 separate random pop culture meanings.
Your first experience with a wrestling promotion was when you were part of the ring crew for the first tour of the Keystone Wrestling Alliance.
That's true.
That's true.
I was part of the ring crew, and we did a tour of Indian reservations.
Whoa.
Where you would travel in northern Manitoba for 24 hours to get to a reservation, and then find out that maybe there's maybe a powwow. And this is not joking, a powwow that happened to be on the same night, and the Indian people would drop off their kids at the wrestling and then go to the powwow. So you'd have like 100 crazy, unruly kids just running over trying to pickpocket you and steal your stuff. And then you'd have to go sleep in a high school gymnasium on a mat and go to Hudson Bay Company, which was like the trading post thing. This is like real. And you'd get a jar of peanut butter for like $30. Like, it was super expensive. That was the first tour that I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling babysitting.
Pro wrestling babysitting,
How
yeah,
about that?
because of the powwow. And we went to another one that was like one reservation, 24 hours. Another 18 hours reservation that we didn't find until we got that the show was canceled because somebody had died and everybody was at the funeral.
Ooh.
So it's like, okay, see you later. Back to so the early days, man.
It says on Wikipedia that at one point during a match with John Cena, he locked you into a modified STF while you were wrapped up in a ladder and you were legitimately choked unconscious. And it was the first time that you'd been knocked out in a match during your career.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the first time I was knocked out, but it was the first time I was choked out. You can see it all unfold and all happen.
Yeah.
And see the change on my face, and my bottom lip start hanging, and so that's true.
Is that a weird feeling to kind of just wake up in the ring a few seconds not knowing really where you are or what's going on?
Well, you don't know how long has passed.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part about it. I thought I was dreaming, and that my alarm was going off in the hotel room, and I was missing an Air Canada flight. When I actually woke up and came to, I was looking at the giant Air Canada logo above me on top of the arena roof, and the alarm sound was me. I was going, like making this weird unconscious/conscious noise. And he was about to a ladder on top of me. So,
That's a nice wake-up call.
yeah.
When it comes to the Shield, it says that you guys were originally supposed to wear turtlenecks and carry riot shields, but that changed very shortly before your debut.
So sort of true again.
Okay.
There's an element. So we actually debuted in turtlenecks. If you watch the debut,
I do
from
remember
Survivor,
that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were in turtlenecks, and we had riot shields. And clubs as well that they had made for us because we were supposed to be some sort of riot security group or whatever. And we immediately realized that the shield, they were huge. They're full body riot shields. You ever seen a riot? They're massive. We very much realized pretty quickly that there was no way we were going to be able to jump the railing, run through the crowd, jump the railing, and get into the ring with those. They were going to be very cumbersome. So the shields went by the wayside quickly. And the batons, we had, like kind of, riot batons that we were going to use as weapons. But Vince McMahon, our boss, actually saw us with the batons as we were rehearsing our debut and was like, you need batons to beat somebody up? What kind of men are you? And we were like, goodbye, city of batons. And so those live somewhere in a warehouse in Stamford, Connecticut now. And we never used them and quickly switched out of the turtlenecks after the debut.
There's a contradiction on Wikipedia to who created the D-Generation X name. One page says it was Vince Russo. Another page says that it was New York Post columnist Phil Mushnick.
Mushnick would have nothing to do with it. I believe the name came from Shane.
Shane.
The first time I ever heard it was from Shane.
Really?
Brett had said we were nothing but a bunch of degenerates, right? Like, they're just losers, a bunch of degenerates. But he had said the flick backstage. But Shane was saying to somebody, and I believe the first time I ever heard it was he was saying to somebody, yeah, but these guys represent, like, they're young, and this is kids today. They're like Generation X, man. They are that thing.
Yeah.
And, he combined the two, and he's like, it's like degenerates, but they're Generation X, like D-Generation X. And that was the first time I ever heard it. And then we flipped it into a promo. That's when we said it live, was Brett said it in a promo, you're nothing but a bunch of loser degenerates. And then Sean said, no, we're degenerates, we're Generation X, we are D-Generation X. And that was the first time we said it. So I don't believe that's actually a Vince Russo or a Mushnick thing. I believe both of those are wrong.
It said that you at one point ruptured your eardrum and broke your nose during a match because of an overly stiff right hand.
Yes.
That's true,
That
too.
was my first match in Ohio Valley Wrestling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was,
Welcome to developmental, kid. That's what that was.
Oh, so they were trying to, like, big league you a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But then he had to drive me to the hospital.
Ah, so joke's on him.
And we had a conversation in the car where I was like, hey, if we got a problem, we can pull over right now.
Gotcha.
No problem, brother. No problem, brother. It was an accident. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then, this is a great story. I'm in the room getting checked out by the doctor, and the doctor tells me that, it's broken and I'm gonna have to come back. They have to wait for it to heal, and then I have to come back, they re-break it, and then they set it, which to me, I was like, what? I was like, I've had my nose broken already, like, just set it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, we don't do that. Okay, I'll be right back. And he left the room, and I went into the bathroom, and I set my nose myself. That's why you can see my nose. It's ugly. When I came back in the room, dude was sitting on the table, dude who punched me. And I was like, what's wrong with you? He's like, oh, I was sitting in the waiting room, and my leg started to really hurt. And they MRI'd him. Dude tore his quad punching me in the face.
Karma. Very nice.
I mean, this is pretty instant karma.
Yeah, it's exactly instant karma.
It's the most expensive punch thrown in Ohio Valley Wrestling history.
In 1990, you had your debut match under the name of Cowboy Chris Jericho without the H in Jericho.
Oh, that's because they spelt my name wrong. Yeah. Just like Rick Emmett from Triumph was R-I-K because on the first record they forgot the C and left it off.
Oh.
So, but yes, I was Cowboy Chris Jericho without the H from Casper, Wyoming. And the reason for that is I trained in Calgary and they decided they wanted me to be a cowboy, and I hate cowboys. No offense to any cowboys watching. And I just did not. I was a rocker dude, man. Like I wanted to, I wanted to be the Paul Stanley of wrestling and the David Lee Roth of wrestling. I don't want to be a cowboy. And so the compromise was that I didn't have to wear a cowboy outfit, but they still were going to say that I was from Casper, Wyoming. So, and no offense to the fine people of Casper.
Going on into the legendary hardcore match with Mick Foley, it says that you suffered second-degree burns during that finish through the table because there was no flame-resistant material applied to the table at both your and Mick's request.
I had what was, some flame retardant material, but I sweat a lot of that off. I was also shirtless, which I didn't think of beforehand. And as I'm running at him, I'm like, he's got 3 layers on. I have no shirt on, and I'm diving into this face first. Probably should have mapped this out a little bit. So we ended up both getting burned. Mick's forearm, because the table flipped over and he pushed it off with his forearm. And yeah, so I got this tattoo to kind of cover some of the scarring. I just recently saw footage that I'd never seen before where the doctors are telling me about the burns. And I think I'm still in a little bit of shock, to be honest, but my arm's gray. And they're saying, okay, so that's second degree. What that means is, and trying to, explain that to me. Meanwhile, I'm getting my head glued and thumbtacks taken on my back.
While eating in a Japanese restaurant in Tampa, Florida, Chris Jericho met his future wife, Jessica, through fellow WCW employee, and here's the kicker, the Disco Inferno.
Kind of true. We were at a sushi restaurant run by this guy called Joe Gomez, who used to also be in the WCW. And she was there with her friends, and I was there with mine. And Disco knew her from Disco used to date her best friend. So Disco actually introduced us.
It said you were the first ever trainer of the Ring of Honor Wrestling School.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy being a teacher?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a pig in shit. I mean, I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and I was doing those one-off Wednesday night pay-per-views in Nashville for TNA.
Okay.
So Monday and Tuesday I would train kids. Wednesday I was in Nashville wrestling. Thursday I would train kids, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I was traveling the world wrestling. It didn't get any better than that.
Awesome.
I thought I was rich. I bought a laptop and an iPod, and I was like,
dude,
I made it. It doesn't get any better than this.
It says, unlike most wrestlers who do use ghostwriters, you wrote the entire book yourself in longhand, no less.
Yeah, that's true. I personally thought it was too soon to write a book, but the company wanted to start having some younger talent write books to try to appeal to a different demographic. I guess for me, the biggest thing was I wanted to write it myself.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this at this stage of my career, I at least want to write it myself. I don't want a ghostwriter because I can always tell. I can just always tell, especially if I know the person. I'm like, that's not their voice. And I knew after Mick had written his that it was possible. Even to this day, I'm proud of that fact. Like, I'm a New York Times best-selling author.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Like, that's something I never thought. It wasn't even on the checklist because I didn't think that was a possibility, but I can look back and say that, and that is mind-boggling to me.
Last one for you. It says that, in fact, you did lose the Up, Up, Down, Down championship to none other than Becky Lynch, Marvel versus Capcom Infinite. Is that correct?
I believe that's accurate. Yeah,
That's
I did.
true.
I did lose the Up, Up, Down, Down title to my future wife at the time. So no shame in that. Look, those Marvel versus Capcom games, lots of button mashing, just no real skill at this level, lots of button mashing, a lot of luck. Just don't tell her I said that.
I won't. Nobody will ever see this.
A legitimate victory for her in her eyes.
Is it good to have a life with someone who can beat your ass in video games?
Oh, it's a treat. Yeah, it's great. I mean, you got to have someone to check you. You know what I'm saying? You can't just walk around thinking you're the top of the house and everything. You got to have someone who's on your level on all things. So very nice to have someone who can kick my ass in a Marvel vs. Capcom. But I mean, if we played again, things might be different. I'm not saying she would lose next time, but you never know. Things just might be different.